Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am the Inconsequential Runner, and we're joined here with Coach Mark. Hello, Coach Mark.
Hi, Darcy. How you going?
Good. I'm going so good. Coach Mark, thank you for returning. For those that are joining us for the first time, what this channel is all about, or certainly these series of videos within this channel, is having an esteemed coach, Coach Mark, and us as runners asking a coach the questions we want answers to as runners. So on that, if you have any questions you want to have asked, either drop us an email, Coach Mark's details in the show notes. So just click on the drop down under the video and you'll see his email there. Otherwise, email me, or better still, just put your question in the comments and other people can react to that question and maybe reshape it or add their own. So feel free to ask any questions. Coach Mark, the question we've got for you today, and it's on the back of actually what came out of our last video where we were talking about nutrition and getting the nutrition right before a race. So not the build up to race day, but on race day itself, what we're eating, what we should be considering, and the time. And coming out of that conversation is, well, what other factors should we be thinking about, we should be measuring, and we should be monitoring daily? And that, I think, gave rise to well, let's talk about the function of a daily journal. How do we bring a scientific approach to our running so we're learning things? And as a continuous improvement practitioner, I know that that's crucial. The foundation of any improvement has to be on embedding an improvement you've already discovered so you can continue to improve. So I suppose under that mindset of continuous improvement, let's talk about daily journals. Coach Mark, let's start with a blank piece of paper here. Tell us what you think we should be thinking about, we should be monitoring, we should be writing about in our daily journal to do with running. Where should we start, Coach Mark?
Yeah, well, you're talking about a journal. You know, I first started keeping a training diary,
Right.
1983, 40 years ago. And the reason I know that is, embarrassingly, I was going through some old stuff and I found it. So
I love it.
One day I might share. I'll look and see if there's anything not too embarrassing, and I might read out of it.
If you want us to publish Coach Mark's journal, training diary from 1983, put it in the comments below. Come on, let's corner him on this one.
Not great reading from a teenage boy, I tell you, not really.
I hope it stays on point. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, but the other thing made me think of, I took part in a charity golf match years ago, and there was a top golfer there in our foursome, and he said to me, Mark, very occasionally, everything comes together and you hit an amazing shot. But he said, I suspect you don't know why you did that, which was very true. I had no idea why I did it, so I couldn't replicate it. So there you go. That's the benefit of a diary. So we can see patterns. That's probably the best word to use. That we record what we did, then we can see patterns that led to a really good performance in a race. We perform particularly well in a race. We go, so why was that? You know, what happened up to that? Okay, well that's quite a good foundation to repeat for my next race, and then I can maybe add to it or whatever. Or we might have a bad race. So again, you know, we say, well, what happened then? And you might see things like, oh, I did too much the week before, or whatever that might be. And again, you know, well, that didn't work well, I'll avoid that next time. Or you might get an injury and you say, oh, well, okay, I can see looking back now, I bumped my mileage up too much, or I suddenly started doing loads of hills, things like that. So it takes out that guesswork.
Yeah, look, yeah. I think there's that old adage that we learn more from our losses than our victories. And I think that's a little bit unfair, because I think the reason why we learn more from our losses is we reflect on them. And too often we get a little bit lazy with our victories. We think job done, but we don't reflect on why something went well. And I think having a daily journal will having the practice of filling out the daily journal, irrespective of whether we're off the back of a victory or the back of a loss, we're taking that that consistent approach to understand why, because we can learn from both. So what sort of things do you think we need to talk about in the daily journal? So you've talked about looking at the patterns, and you certainly talked about, I suppose, measuring what the distances that we're training each day.
Yeah. Just the simple distance or time that you ran for is probably the most useful thing you can write down. If all you wrote down was that, it would be of use, because you at least get a gauge of what you're doing and how much you're doing.
I imagine terrain makes
you should also. What's that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, terrain. When did you talk about distance,
terrain?
Yeah,
look, definitely terrain. Yep, definitely terrain. So again, you can see patterns, because you shouldn't run, all your runs shouldn't be on hills. Ideally, all your runs shouldn't be on the flat. Again, that you gain balance in your week by recording it. And again, you can see those patterns if it worked, if you did so many hill sessions before a particular race, you think, well, that worked well. And so terrain and if it's specific to the event you're doing, if it's rocky or rooty terrain, or all that sort of stuff as well. Yeah, grass, tarmac, all that sort of stuff is useful to record down and easy to record.
And you sparked a thought in my mind also, which is not just the terrain that you ran on, like hills before race, but how soon it was before race. And one thing I discovered, because I was getting massages 2 days out before a race, and by and large, those races were going terrible. And I looked at all my journal entries, and the one common thing was I was having a massage 2 days out. The food was slightly different. The weather conditions on the day were slightly different. And once I started to move my massages out to be at least 5 days before a race, I found that there was a marked difference, because even though massage helped repair my body, it beats my body up for a couple of days before it starts to help my body. It's almost like my muscles have to realign. So that's one thing I've discovered, and that only comes through from a daily journal. So I would advocate, even when you have a massage and just everything you do before the race, the build up, just track what you're doing every day. Are there anything else we should be thinking about, Coach Mark? So we're capturing how we feel. Would you advocate we do it in a physical and a mental sense, in terms of how energized we feel, and how would we rank that? How would we capture those sorts of things?
I find I just use a simple 1 to 5 scale. Is a very easy way to do it, and it's easy to look at as well. 1 means you felt absolutely terrible, couldn't have felt worse. 5 was effortless, the best run ever. Most runs will be within that range, and it's not too important, the numbers. I mean, a lot of people say, I don't know, is it a 2 or 3 or 4? Doesn't matter too much. But if you're not really sure, just put 3. But that tells you something in itself. So if you're all 3s, then everything's kind of sailing along, isn't it? You're not too bad. But if you have 3 or 4 runs that are all 2s, and you're just feeling bad, that's telling you something. That's a warning sign. You need to back off or do something different before you're injured or ill. So again, it gives you all these signs. And again, looking back, you might see that and go, well, that's why I got injured, because I see I had all these sort of bad. It also gives you confidence, because I often, if I'm getting back into running, I have a run, where my body's all sort of getting used to it again, and I'll have all my runs are sort of 1s and 2s, and I feel awful. But I look back, over the years, and I think, well, I know if I just stick with it for 3 or 4 weeks, that then translates to 3s and 4s. It always happens. So it gives you confidence as well. All right. Very good one to have. Yeah.
And thank you for giving us permission not to get hung up too much between whether it's a 2 or a 3. Just sort of pick one or the other, write it down, because we're looking at the trend and a blend of numbers over time, a window, as opposed to because I think I can get a bit too detailed on that. Okay.
If it's really bad, you'll know anyway, you know,
Yeah.
and you can then put a comment to the side of why it was bad,
Yeah.
you know, if I'm coaching you and you're sharing your diary with me, I might say, so why was that a 1 or a 2? You know, what was going on? You
Yeah.
know, so again, it gives a basis for communication. It gives you a basis for reflection, and yeah, again, it makes you more in tune with your body and how it responds to training. Only good. The other thing I don't think we've mentioned is the effort and speed that you did your
Ah,
run at. So that's obviously important. You know, did you do it? You could just simply go easy or hard or you know, steady, or you might, or actually say the reps and the times of the reps is useful.
okay.
That sort of information, because then that gives that can give you confidence, because you go, boy, I'm hitting speeds I haven't been hitting before. The training's working. Or you look back. Oh, last year, what did I do? I did the session before a big race last year. How was that? Oh, these are actually better, you know, quicker than that session I did last week. I'm looking like I'm on target to do a really good time. So it gives you a lot of confidence as well.
Yeah, look,
Um,
I can talk to that because there's been a number of times I've been despondent in my training and thinking I'm not getting anywhere here. But what I've been doing is looking at my training and comparing it to maybe a month ago, not comparing it to a year ago. When I compare it to a year ago, I'm like, what am I talking about? I'm 2 minutes faster over 10K or something. It's some sizable difference. Or I run a race and I knock a couple of minutes off what it was the last year. So sometimes we can forget that. And if you don't have the data, then you can't see what's going on. Conversely, if it's not working, if you don't have the data, if you haven't been capturing this, you're in a tougher place to be able to solve what the issue might be or what you need to change. So let me summarize, Coach Mark. And then I've got one final question for you in terms of when we write in our journal. Is it after a race or, sorry, after a run, or is it at the end of the day? So hold that thought. I'll come back to that. But the daily journal, so we're writing down the run we did, the speed and the effort, the time and the distance, train, and other factors that you want, like wind and stuff like that. And then
yeah.
an overall scale, 1 to 5. 1 means it was just awful. It was just impossible to get through. You had no energy. 5 means best run of my life, or one of those runs you come back and you just feel pumped. That's your 5. Think about adding peripheral stuff, like when you have a massage. Scientifically, you're eating what you ate and how soon before you went out for a run, and did that work or did that not? So there's a lot of personalization you can do in a daily journal. So the last question I've got for you, Coach Mark, is, are there any other burning things we should have in our daily journal that I haven't mentioned? And when do we fill out our daily journal? Is it best to do it after we've done our run and our stretch down, do it while it's fresh, or is it more an end of night thing? Is there a better time?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a better time straight after or at the end of the night. Straight after, I guess, would be better, because you've got it more fresh in your mind. But it's a case of, you know, what suits, and, you know, if you're able to do it, if you have to, you know, get back to work, whatever. But yeah, as soon as feasibly possible after the run is better, because you get a more accurate reflection of how you felt. Which is good. Look, and I'll tell you that as well. Another great thing to put in your diary is, if you do a good race, to actually write a little kind of reflection of the race and your emotions and how excited you were and how you felt when you did it and all that, because that makes great reading. Looking back, and you look back at your journal or your diary, say 2 years ago, of some really good race you ran, and it brings back all the memories. And especially if you're going through a particularly low period in your running at this point in time, you look back when things were going great, and it's a great confidence booster and quite entertaining as well.
So let me add a quick tip to that. What I sometimes do for my race review is I write it on the back of the race number. Now it's
Ah,
getting harder and
even
harder
better.
to do because a lot of the race numbers now have got the chips in them and a whole bunch of information saying don't bold it
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So the back of the number's like busy. But if the back of your number isn't busy, if it's white or clear or plain, I mean plain, and a pen will write on it. Some of them are a bit waxy, but a lot of numbers you can. I write my review on the back of the number, and it makes it easier to find too. If I'm like, okay, I want
that's
to
really good.
review of the race, I go, that's the number that relates to the race. I'll put it in your journal where it is, and that's a good way of catching it. And if you want to know the 9 elements to do a perfect race review, that is in a video, I think 2 or 3 back. Coach Mark shares with us those 9 elements, and we put those 9 elements in the show notes. Why are we doing this for free? This is insane. Anyway, it's a couple of videos back. Go and have a look at it. It's really good. It's really good video covering your review. What you'll get out of doing that race review is you will be a better runner the next time you do that race because you'll be reinforcing the good stuff and you'll be learning from the other stuff. Coach Mark, I think that's the perfect way to wrap it. Thank you so much. Really, again, look, I think on behalf of everyone who watches these videos, thank you so much for coming and sharing this info. It's a crazy good resource and we really appreciate it. For those of you that are watching and you like this sort of stuff, share some love with Coach Mark, hit the like button, and that's your way of going, thanks, man. Appreciate the info. Coach Mark, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Darcy. Oh, no, I love talking, answering any questions people have.
Well, they keep coming our way. They keep coming our way. So if you've got a question you want me, the Consequential Runner, to ask Coach Mark, put it in the comments. We will pick that up. If you want to reach out to Coach Mark, his details are also in the show notes. His email address, so you can reach out to him directly. Do that. You'll be doing yourself a favor. Everyone, take care. Enjoy your running. Bye.
Cheers.